because we
Hey
really.
guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions 4 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Yael and Shira is here with us today. Hello guys, how you doing?
Hi,
Hi,
doing
Danny.
well.
Okay, Yael, I know most people know you, but again, just an introduction, and we're followed by Shira as well.
So Yael Kabili, I'm an attorney, an e-commerce attorney, originally an IP attorney. We've been working with sellers since 2016, representing over the years about 5,000 sellers on all trademark, suspensions, anything related to Amazon. I'm also one of the co-founders of Fortinet, an investment banking firm helping selling businesses.
Excellent, and over to you.
I'm Shira Bubis. I am a partner with Kabili, Yael's partner. I have 13 years experience in IP and high tech. And I had the suspensions department in our office, as well as Amazon-related acquisitions.
Excellent. So who's kicking off? Because we've got a list of things to go through here. Who wants to start?
Shira, you want to start?
All right, the floor is mine then.
Yes.
So the goal of this conversation is to talk about what we could expect and any troubleshootings that we see that might come up on Q4 and
That's
how
right.
to
So it's
avoid
like a
them.
prevention. Yeah.
Right, how to avoid them, the trends that we see going on at the moment, and what can really hinder sales and stop them.
Yeah.
So several things that we see coming up more and more, especially as Q4 nears.
As it's approaching.
One of them is supplier vetting. When you come to authenticity concerns, trademark infringement, product not as described, use sold as new, condition, almost at any of these situations, part of the way to resolve it is to provide a vetted chain of supply showing that it's the original item, that it came from the brand. If you have several bodies of the chain, if it's a supplier of the supplier, you need to make sure that everything is ready. So if Amazon asks for it, you can alleviate their concerns by showing the original documents.
So this will kind of walk through that. What would, if you were advising a seller, what are some of the steps they would take leading up to that?
So let's take an example where a brand, either it's a suspected IP complaint, trademark complaint, or a received IP complaint, which you can see in the health dashboard. It's divided pretty neatly right now. They've improved the seller dashboard. The first thing that I would say, if you're selling the original item, let's say you're a reseller, is you are protected. There's no trademark infringement. This is obviously in general terms. If you are selling your original item and all you do is you're a conduit, sale, you're protected by a fair use doctrine called the first sale doctrine, which says that if you can prove that the brand benefited from that first sale, then they cannot continue to control that chain of supply moving forward. So what we want to do is to show Amazon, look, the brand, here are the invoices. It's clear that the brand already enjoyed the benefits from the first sale because I bought it from them. The brand doesn't have any say what I do forward with the resale, and that I'm absolutely allowed to do so.
Yeah.
So the invoices here serve as evidence to support your claim that the brand enjoyed the first sale benefits. So it needs to clearly identify the product. So Amazon clearly knows that the ASIN in question or the title is the exact product that's on the invoice. It needs to show the details of your store. So Amazon knows that you are the buyer, that it's not someone else. The more compatible the details are with your Seller Central, the easier it is for Amazon to verify. And your supplier needs to be verifiable. What does it mean, verifiable in Amazon world? There's so many suppliers out there. There's absolutely zero chance that Amazon would know all of them. So you need to make it easy for Amazon. You need to have an internet presence. So if you don't have a website, Amazon, as far as they're concerned, you don't exist. Doesn't matter that legally you went to a mom and pop store and you bought it and it's the original thing. If they are not on the web or cybersphere, they don't exist for Amazon, and there's no way to authenticate them for Amazon purposes. The contact details need to be clearly visible, and so on. And often what Amazon does, when they want to vet a supplier, they call them. They use the contact details. They don't give away. They usually don't go. They tend not to get in the middle. Yeah. So they're not going to ask if you're allowed or you're not allowed, or do you know. They're not there to snitch. They'll probably say. Usually they say, I have in front of me a document, an invoice, number, blah blah blah. Could you tell me the details that you have on that invoice? If it matches what is on the invoice and what Amazon has, great, you're vetted. Recently, there has been more and more situations where Amazon couldn't get a hold of the suppliers in order to vet them, or sometimes they called in weird hours because they didn't consider the time zone, it wasn't the business hours, and they couldn't get a hold of them. So they've decided that it's too much work, and all of a sudden, these suppliers that have for years completely vetted, all their documents fully verifiable, passed, even Amazon used them themselves as vendors, all of a sudden they have become not verifiable. That is increasing. I've seen this more. We've seen this more and more throughout the past 10 days. And I'm assuming that the closer we get to Q4 and the closer authenticity concerns or IP concerns are raised, this will become more and more of an issue. So to prevent or look forward to troubleshooting, if this happens to you, get your ducks in a row as fast before Q4 and get ready. What does that mean? That means to make sure that there is a contact person that would answer Amazon. If there is a chain of supply, see if it's already if it's a new supplier that you're going into business with, see what their readiness and their willingness would be to provide either the full chain, because most do not want to reveal that for several reasons, or if alternatively, if they will not provide the full chain for confidentiality reasons or whatever, if they're willing to sign some sort of declaration attesting to their authorization to sell the brand. See how cooperative they are. If they're willing, sometimes the invoice doesn't pass because it doesn't fit Amazon's format requirements. See if they're aware of these format requirements. A lot of them are experienced and they know most likely what is expected. See if they're willing to back up missing details on a declaration, again, to confirm the details in a way that Amazon would accept it. And if they're willing to provide a contact person that would be there and available and ready for Amazon. We've encountered recently several cases where the supplier of the supplier was the brand, and they know that they can't stop you from reselling on Amazon, but if they know that it's an Amazon phone number that is calling, they intentionally don't pick up to make it harder for Amazon to verify, and they found that is recently very effective. So again, see how combative it is. Also choose the brands that you want to sell wisely. If it's a brand that you know that is very, that opposes sales on Amazon, do you really want to go into this argument and this fight right before Q4? Because that could, stop your sales also on an account level.
So obviously that's more information if you're wholesaling and stuff. What about private label owners? What would be the best way to deal with that? Because they are the brand owner, right? But they still need a supply chain, and they need to verify that supply chain. Maybe they manufacture in the US or in the UK rather than in China. How do they go ahead and do that to put that paperwork in place to break that down to verify the new manufacturer of their brand?
Absolutely. When it's a manufacturer invoice, it's actually easier because it's also easier to tailor the format requirements, because manufacturers usually know easily can provide. You can agree with them in advance of how your how your invoices would look like for your business, because they know that they are working with Amazon and there are certain format requirements. Make sure that your brand name appears in the description clearly. So it's not enough just to put in the UPC or some code. I would put the actual brand name on there. You can also back it up with, if you have a registered brand or even an application with the USPTL to show that the information matches. If you have GS1, UPC, again, make sure that all the information is consistent throughout these additional objective public databases. So you're able to provide that to Amazon to prove I am the brand owner. This is the manufacturer that does this under my request according to my order. And often also have a declaration ready where they confirm that they have provided and manufactured this product for your brand, specifically for you, and they don't sell it to others.
Okay, so there's something I want to throw in as well, is if you're looking to ungate and you're launching a new brand, you get the option to obviously private label or resell. So what I did with a factory that I used that had a storefront as well was to buy a load of products, okay, just for the ungating process. And then I got them to adjust their email template, or sorry, their invoice template with all the details on to make sure everything was on there for Amazon. Right, so when it goes through, they can check all that stuff. And what I did is instead of I made the payment and I said, do not let that leave the factory floor. And what I did, I comped across against my first order. So all the products that I bought was the array, 10 of these, 15 of those, 20 of those, etc., was offset against my first production invoice. And so when Amazon called, they were able to read off the invoice and all the details there to deal with it. Then that way you've managed to ungate without purchasing everything. All you're doing is duplicating across and offsetting against the invoice on your very first order.
Right. Since I'll just say something small here. Since you're mentioning ungating, something that we need to remind sellers again and again. When you're using an ungating service, make sure you vet that service. We've seen suspensions where those ungating service, what they do is so there's one invoice that was actually a real one, and then they just change the details again and again every time to another client of theirs. And so that person presents the invoice to Amazon, and then they're suspended for forged invoices.
That's right.
When you're suspended for forged invoices, this is not something that you can easily come back. In most cases, you can't. It's, you're done with Amazon. And we've seen that several times. And even with large accounts that made a mistake and thought it was a reputable consultant or a service provider. So the best with ungating is use your own invoices. Don't use invoices from other parties that you received, and definitely don't change them.
Indeed. Should we move on to number 2, changing the brand on an ASIN and the ability to enforce your IP?
Yeah. So this is something that we have discussed, you and I, Danny, on several of our sessions together. And I think it was about a year and a half ago where we announced Amazon's first change in this respect. In the past, so it has been progressing. In the past, you could actually change your brand on the listing. So, for example, on the trademark part, when we had clients who couldn't trademark their brand, we would tell them, just change to another brand and then change it on the ASIN, and then we'll trademark your new brand and we'll continue. And then about a year or a year and a half ago, Amazon decided that they're stopping that because there were a lot of sellers who changed the brand on old listings and then used those reviews. They changed actually the product as well. They changed everything except for the reviews, and they use those old listings, and then they remove everybody with their trademarks. So Amazon one day to stop this kind of bad behavior, change the policy. And now if you read the policy, it says, and it's very clear, you cannot change the brand on your listing. What this means, and which we have discussed, you and I, several times, is that when you choose a brand and when you open a listing, remember that you can change it. It means that the brand must be trademarkable. Means that you've done a search, you know it's clean, you know you can trademark it later, because otherwise you're stuck with a brand that you can't trademark. Nobody will buy your business in the future. You can't remove hijacker. So you need to remember to run a search and have a clean trademark, a clean brand. What happened now, so it has been progressive. So they changed about a year ago, they changed the policy, as I said, and then we started seeing suspensions. People who changed the brand were suspending for changing the brand on the listing. We even had a case in the middle of a sale where the seller was selling the account, and then before the sale, he changed the brands to one that is trademarked because he wanted, a very good, clean account with trademark brands. And boom, it was removed in the middle of the due diligence. So that happened. And then recently, just last week, we're starting seeing a change again, where Amazon says, even those who actually managed to get approval to change the brand, and where Amazon said, okay, you can change it, Amazon tells them, and we're seeing that last week, Amazon tells them, you change the brand, you cannot enforce it. We won't let you enforce it. So you can keep the brand, the new one, but you can't remove hijackers or people jumping on your listing. So it's quite, it's something in between. They won't suspend you. It seems like they're going to that direction. They won't suspend you entirely if you got their approval to change the brand, but they won't help you enforce it. I think that what we've seen, by the way, we've had cases where we've been able, and that's the exception, we've been able to change the brand on the listing where it was very, very similar. Like, for example, if the brand is Macmillan and the seller used Mac and then space Millen, and then the trademark says Macmillan attached, and the trademark doesn't fit the brand, and he wants to change it. So we have been able to do that. We just had to show external evidence that this is what you meant. That's how you trademark it. Macmillan attached. That's how it is on the GS1. So we showed to Amazon that this was just an error, and this is how you meant, and this is just a small thing, and so it's the same brand. In that case, they seem to allow it. But in all other cases, all the smart sellers who actually managed to get Amazon to change the brand to something completely different, remember there's a big chance you'll end up with a brand that you cannot enforce. And that's dangerous on Q4, as we all know. Many sellers like to kind of jump on your listing and enjoy from the sales.
Indeed. Shira, everyone's favorite part of selling on Amazon, returns.
Yes. I just like to add to what Yael just said about if you can change the brand because you can consider it a technical issue. For example, Macmillan, like Yael said, with the space apart, the more corroborating objective evidence you can provide to support your claim that it was a typo or a mistake or technical oversight, the better your chances are. So I would work on the GS1 fund. Amazon loves GS1 at the moment. Anything that you have an issue with convincing Amazon about the brand, make sure that your GS1 is updated. You can go in and change it once you purchase GS1 and you have a back end like Seller Central for GS1. It's pretty easy to change the details there. You can make them accurate, make sure that they're the same as what is on Seller Central and the USPTO. You show those, Amazon sees it as objective, and it's a lot less argumentative and more factual, and it passes Amazon's muster much easier.
Cool. I just like to add as well on the GS1 side of thing, I've got an amnesty in place for GS1. Contact of mine in the UK, Lorna, because the problems where people bought UPCs off, where was it? eBay and places like that a number of years ago. There's an amnesty in place where you won't get penalized. So if you sign up for that and sign up for GS1 and then do the transfer over, because everyone's worried about losing reviews and everything else and getting in trouble with Amazon. So if you want to reach out to me on that, it's danny@sellersessions.com, and I'll put you in contact with Lorna.
Just keep in mind that it is very hard to change UPC once it's on an existing listing.
Yeah,
and we'll get to that.
But the GS1 have a connect with Amazon. It's slightly thin, but when it's verified from GS1, yes, they're a GS1 member. Yes, they want to change it over. It just adds a little bit more clout than they would if they go in cold. Okay, should we carry on the point on returns then, Shira? Do you want to unmute?
Yes. So again, tis the season to be jolly and for returns.
Yeah.
Q4, there's a lot of sales. There's an influx. That also means that there's a lot of returns. It's not news that sometimes FBA muckles it up and sends returned items as new or puts them in the wrong place, or and then you get the complaint and you have to deal with it, and your ODR goes suffers, or your voice of the customer. So in order to prevent that, and you could also include it, by the way, if that does happen, as implemented steps in the plan of action that are immediate, is add to your product packaging a sticker that is, I don't know, in bulk red letters that says unsellable if open. And then if it's opened by a buyer and is returned, Amazon sees that, and it's a lot easier for the FBA. It will be a lot harder to get confused when placing it in the wrong place, and then you minimize the chances of mistaken returns that are fault of FBA, which happens. So you're working with Amazon, you're making it easier for them, and you're also making it easier for a buyer, because if they get that, then it's also easier to say, oops, that was a mistake. You see, there was the sticker there. So Amazon really likes when you do that. I wouldn't just say I did it without doing it. I would do it, and then also you can do a bin check. If Amazon doesn't accept your appeal, you can ask for a bin check, and that can be easily confirmed.
Yeah.
And help you.
Cool. Yeah. Inserts.
That's one of my favorite topics, actually. So we've been seeing again here a change in the policy with Amazon. I mean, we all know that about a year ago or 2 years ago, all the especially large sellers started using inserts, and then the insert very often lead to a flow on the ManyChat, and then you kind of screen the good customers, those that were happy with the program, with the product, and then you ask them for a review, and they leave a review. Now, Amazon's policy, has changed over the years. They're trying to prevent false reviews, obviously, or incentivize reviews, and they're being stricter with what is considered incentivized reviews. So when, for example, your insert says, go to my website, you'll get a gift, and then you get a free gift, and then they ask for a review, there's something that you give for free, you're asking for reviews, that's not allowed. That's not even gray. That's, today, that's just not allowed. Now, recently, we've seen over the last year, Amazon has been, cracking down on those inserts. We've seen many suspension among large private labels where they received one warning, you're using inserts, another warning, and then Amazon just shuts down the entire account. When it happens once, it's fine. 100, I think there's 100% chance to come back. But then if you're doing it right, of course. But then the second time, if you do that again, you're out of Amazon in many cases. Still here again, we've had cases we've managed to reinstate, but the second time is much, much harder. So we've seen them become stricter, and now we've seen in the last weeks becoming a little more flexible. We would say very carefully, they're not suspending you entirely immediately. What they do now is they're going over the product, they're looking at your inserts, and they're looking, first of all, they're looking at the insert itself. If it asks for reviews, there is a problem. They ask you to remove the entire inventory, you may be suspended. But if the insert is fine, they're going to go from the insert to your website. They're going to follow your flow and see if you incentivize reviews. Now, the change that we've seen recently is that if in the past they would suspend you, now they would write to you a kind of warning, which says, we saw your inserts, you're violating the rules, you're incentivizing reviews, we're asking you to remove the inventory.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have said that, because that's going to incentivize people. Go, we'll do it first time around, we get a warning.
Wait. You get a warning, I can tell you that. Let me finish.
I know.
So you take out the inventory, okay? Taking out the inventory on Q4 is not fun. So you have to take out the inventory, remove those inserts, and then put it back, and then sign some kind of declaration. When you sign the declaration, by the way, we urge you and we recommend really writing to Amazon that you understand what you understood, what you intend to do, and how you implemented that it's not allowed. So while they're not suspending, you'll get a warning, and sometimes it depends on the warning. Some of them are softer, some of them aren't, but they're asking you to remove the inventory. Again, Q4, that's not something that you want. So my opinion and Shira's opinion and anybody dealing with suspension today is an insert can be okay as long as the insert itself doesn't promote any, that doesn't ask you for a positive review or pushes you to bring reviews. But what you have to look at is what happened after the insert. If it sends you to the website and the website itself asks you for reviews after you get a gift, that's a problem, and now Amazon is checking.
I think that's where the problem comes, because people always try and move the needle on the verbiage, right? They'll get as far as close as possible for not asking review and find clever ways to write that, then complain when being told you can't. But what you're saying is, because they follow the flow itself and it's on the website, and that's like, you'll get a review, we'll send you 2 bottles for free. That's still the problem, is that people got to be absolutely clear, and everyone does know it. I know that terms of service are vague at best of times, but it's very clear that you can't ask for a review or incentivize in any way, shape or form whatsoever.
Yeah, the combination of you giving, there's one thing that we know for sure, 100%. The combination.
In all honesty, I think inserts now are absolutely pointless. Like you can take the risk.
You get an email. That's something.
But what's the conversion rate? Like people don't sign up for warranties no more on a $10, $20 product.
Some of them do, even if it's when you.
It depends on your volume, right? You're doing big volume, you've got a nice margin and stuff like that. Things like make sense, but don't forget the time lapse from collecting these emails. So you go, I'll get 800 emails over a year. By the time you get round to messaging them, the essence is gone. Unless you're doing 10,000 units a day or 5,000 units a day, and you've got a 1 or 2% conversion rate, and at the end of the month you're mailing. It's a different story. But I think in all honesty, you've got to look at the 80-20, right? So there are going to be, there's always an exception to the rule. People are going to do well, but I've seen in most cases, unless you're doing tremendous volume and somehow you can get a decent conversion rate, it's barely worth doing. And the risk of pulling your stock and having to go to the 3PL and pull out all the inserts and then send it back in, especially in Q4. I don't know whether the juice is worth the squeeze.
I agree. Not worth it. It's better than suspending your entire account, right? But I think that you're right that in most cases it's not worth it. Some sellers, I've discussed that with many large sellers recently, and even those that disconnected, ask them, why do you keep it if it's only for the emails? If you don't get a review, why do you keep it? And they say that it does. I mean, those emails help them when they launch the products. Today, there's nothing you can do to launch products. So you kind of have your audience that has bought the product that is actually active. So you can send them emails when you launch product. That's something that you can do. And it is some kind of assets, having an email list of people who actually.
But only if the list is active, right? A list needs to be warm, right? You need to do volume, have it warm, top of mind, do it that way. That's where you're going to have the most impact. But if you've got a shitty conversion rate as well, it goes back to, think about open rate. Let's say you got a 20% open rate and you send it, you got a 200 main list. It's barely worth the effort to design a template, send it. Do you see what I mean? So you need a good volume.
Yeah.
You need to think about your open rate, and when your open rate, you're going to have your click-through rate, which could be lower, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you send out 100, 20% your conversion rate, 20 people open the email, 1% of them clicks through.
Yeah.
What's the fucking point? Do you know what I mean? What is the
I
point?
agree. And even those who do, they wouldn't necessarily buy another product of yours. But still, it's interesting because again, I've been asking again and again sellers, and most of them are saying they continue nonetheless. I'm wondering really what will happen in a year from now when they'll see, you know, what the real numbers are. But that's where we are right now. I mean, Amazon is really restricting that, and it's just not worth it today.
Yeah. So are we going to cover?
Can I just add one quick thing? When it sounds simple, where Amazon sends you a warning, tells you you have 30 days to take out the inventory, take out the inserts, put them back in, and you know, sign the declaration that you understand everything, and we'll lay off you. They're actually testing you when you sign that declaration. They always, when it comes to incentivize reviews and all that stuff, they're looking to see how you are and how they can trust you as a seller. So it goes into your seller responsibility. So a lot of the times they also tell you, if you have other ASINs that also have inserts and that we don't know about, take those inserts out too. And then before you provide the declaration, also declare that you don't have any further inserts, that you really understood the policies and that you've taken note, and that you implemented everything you've just declared. And they would go and they would check. And they are looking to catch you in a lie. That is their agenda, to clear and remove abusive sellers. So if they find that after you said, yeah, and we did everything, and Amazon gave us a chance, but you didn't want to lose or remove inventory of another ASIN that Amazon didn't even mention, and they find that out, that is a harsh suspension that you'll have a lot of explaining to do why that happened and how that was an oversight. Yeah. Usually when you give a plan of action, you try, also, especially when review manipulation plans of actions are a little counterintuitive, because it's put it all out there. Tell them exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, because they know what you've done. So you
exactly.
Done review
they have it on their screen. They know exactly what you did. They want to see how
you literally have to say, I manipulated this way, I did this flow, and I've done this, and this is what I did, and, or you won't get back on the platform. So you have to be brutally honest. And the problem is most people won't, because they don't understand, like, they're playing this cat and mouse game.
Right.
Really, the only way to get back on the platform is to be brutally honest. Exactly.
Now, if you have an insert that plainly out on the language of the insert itself doesn't ask for reviews, it doesn't incentivize, and you have to go through the flow, often you could at least cut down the flow and shut it down. So if someone tries to go through the flow, they get dogs, or they get, you know, a dead page, because Amazon poses as a buyer. That's another thing people don't know. Amazon poses as a buyer, and they will go through your chat, and they will talk to you, and they will try every single option to try to catch you, even to see if if you're giving away a gift only to happy people, and not buyers that didn't give you a 5-star rating or say that they're happy. That is also a catch. They will look for that. So just be very paranoid and aware. That's my tip for Q4. Be paranoid. That never hurts with Amazon.
Cool. Buy messaging.
So for the buyer messages, it kind of goes with what we said about the inserts. I think that there has been a development there as well. I mean, in the past, when we started dealing with sellers back in 2016, you could write whatever you wanted there. We would ask for reviews, ask for this, after that, honest feedback. Today, they restrict you with almost everything. They try to make a policy that explains exactly what you can do, actually what you cannot do. It doesn't say what you can, it says what you cannot. But with time, we're finding that it's becoming impossible. I mean, whatever you write there that is good for you is probably not allowed. And so there's and what they do is if you're using a text that isn't allowed, is that they kind of stop it for about 30 days, except for critical issues. And there's a list of critical issues that you can actually deal with. What we think is that with time, sellers simply won't use the buyer-seller messaging, because it's they're restricting it so much that it's just not worth it. And when you actually need it, you can't use it. So this is the direction that Amazon is going for. If you have it and it works for you and they didn't stop it, just leave it the way it is. Don't change anything, because you're not under the radar. And if it's violating, just stop, unless there's a really benefit there.
Cool. Last bit now is the new stuff. So, go on, sorry.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
What Yael is, the examples that you need to look at are proactive messages. That's where Amazon is now buckling down, even though it's supposedly allowed. You're supposed to be able to send one request for review. They even say that in the communication guidelines. It looks like the tendency is to not allow you to do any proactive reviews unless it is for the purpose of fulfilling the order, shipment issues, something went wrong, answering questions from buyers. So the thank you for buying with us and want to give you a great experience as a seller, as a buyer, that's where they're cutting down. So the point here is that proactive reviews, we see a tendency that they're going to go away. They're allowed.
Excellent. So last bit, storage limits, PPU, insurance, carrier tracking, info.
It's just the Amazon is constantly trying to refine the ability to prepare their storage facilities for Q4. You need to have IPI of 500. It used to be lower for the minimum. Otherwise, you'll have restrictions of the limits and the cubic allowance. And that IPI is checked. It could actually be checked weekly, but it's updated every given time. I believe that the last time they checked and updated it was August 10th, if I remember correctly. So if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem for Amazon. You need to be a good seller that will give a good experience to the buyers. Otherwise, you will see it reflected in your ability to use their facilities.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mentioned this on Inside Amazon last week with the news that come out to the seller support associates. So there is going to be a beta of some kind where they're going to be inviting testing to invite people to communicate with Amazon in terms of expanding the amount that they can send in, but it's going to be based on invitation, and then they'll get agreed limits. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but some guys out there may be getting emails quite soon with regards to that, and I'm sure that will dial up a lot faster once they've got their feet wet with it.
I would also say to keep in mind that we're still in COVID era. And when Amazon wants to be a little bit impulsive, or they see that they're not living up to their own word, they can easily blame it on the situation, which is understandable because they're also trying to adjust, just as the world is trying to adjust to the new situation. But they seem to excuse a lot of abrupt decisions with the COVID situation. I've seen this happen. We've seen this happen also with removal orders that they constantly are canceled, and then you continue paying for storage fees, even though you've tried to remove inventory for 6 months, and Amazon keeps canceling them. And it's not really a policy; it's a question and answer section. They mentioned there, because of COVID, we won't be refunding you, and it's up to you to check constantly if we've canceled your orders and reissue them for removal. It's another trend that may be merged into Q4 hysteria. and used to justify Amazon's abrupt actions.
Yeah. So PPU, again, I mentioned last week, but obviously you'll talk about it as well. It's going to be that any new listings you add to you upload via flat file, or you create a new listing for a new product, that has to be, it's what's the word, an attribute that's going to be enforced and in place. Is there anything else you want to add to that as well?
Nope, you just said it.
Okay, no worries.
Coming up.
I didn't want to steal your thunder, but insurance carrier tracking info. I'm sure there's loads you can tell us about that.
Insurance, it's always been a requirement, but now Amazon seems to fine-tune and they're setting up enforcement. It looks like it for if you sell monthly over 10K, then you'll need to have insurance. There are some issues right now with if you're a foreign Amazon seller and you're not based in the States, to actually acquire insurance. That, as far as I know, it's kind of new, all this, enforcing the insurance requirements. But from what I understand, if you change or add, what needs to match in the insurance is the legal entity, not the business address. You can have a different business address that is local to the States on the insurance policy, and that should work that out. If they were to suspend sellers for this, I'm not sure it will come to Q4, because usually there's some sort of leeway or some adjustment period where Amazon would allow you, once they inform you that they're going to be strict and buckle down on it, they give you some wiggle room to get your affairs in order. And this requirement came kind of recently, so it's kind of close to Q4. So I don't imagine that there would see a lot of suspensions right at smack in the middle of Q4, but could be that they would start soon after. They'll give you some time to adjust.
Okay.
I wouldn't test it.
Yeah, get your
insurance.
And it's a misconception that it's only if it's a private label you need the insurance. If you sell a brand and you're sued, you can get sued even if you're just a reseller. The courts may eventually say, "Oh yeah, you're not to blame because you're a small screw in the chain. You're not the deep pockets." But you still have to go through the litigation, and you'll still be liable, because everyone in the chain is liable when it comes to liability insurance for product liability. So if you're selling, or if you're even close to, once you cross the 10,000 limit, or that boundary, I would get an insurance, so you don't find a situation where you happen to be lucky and really profitable 1 month and then you're not compliant.
Cool. And tracking?
That's another thing that is going to be enforced in October. You'll have to have tracking, easy tracking on your labels, and that's another demand from Amazon that's coming up.
Excellent. I think we've covered a lot there. What is the best way to reach you guys?
You can reach us on our website, e-kabili.com, or email yael@ekabili.com or shira@ekabili.com.
Cool. Final seller session tickets are available. They're from the refunds. You can find them on Eventbrite. It's brought to you by Frasio, YLT Translation, Seller Alley, Ping Pong, Your Tasker, Perpetua, and Pickford. You can see I'm reading that all off the bottom there on the ticket. So the only tickets left now is the VIP dinner on the Friday, and then conference on the Saturday. Within the VIP dinner, you're going to have all the speakers there, or most of the speakers there, plus sellers, plus industry folk are flying in. And then on the Saturday, the conference, then you got the after party as well. I'll be DJing from 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. and then there'll be the after party. So as I said, there's about half a dozen left over at Eventbrite, so go check them out. Tomorrow I'll be back here 4 p.m. BST. We'll be covering some stuff on PPC and DSP leading into Q4. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again tomorrow.